Now, Madam President, I wish to devote the remainder of my remarks to honoring the memory of a dear friend, President Thomas S. Monson, a beloved leader whose love for God and his fellow man defined a lifetime of selfless service. President Monson passed away quietly last week with friends and family gathered by his bedside. Today, I join millions across the globe in mourning the loss of an extraordinary man who, as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we have long looked upon as a prophet, seer, and revelator. I also wish to extend my deepest sympathies to President Monson's family, especially his children, Thomas, Ann, and Clark. And although we are saddened by President Monson's passing, we take comfort in knowing that he has been reunited with his wife, Frances, his lifelong friend and eternal companion. President Monson was born in Salt Lake City in 1927 to G. Spencer Monson and Gladys Condi Monson. Growing up during the Great Depression, young Tom was greatly influenced by his parents, who taught him the importance of taking care of others. From an early age, Tom displayed a remarkable concern for the most vulnerable among us. And throughout his life, he showed that concern and worked on solving problems for them. When Tom was just a boy, he had two beloved pet rabbits which he tended every day. But when he heard of a destitute family in his neighborhood, a family so down in their luck that they had nothing to eat for Christmas dinner, Tom did what few little boys would ever do. He gave his two pet rabbits to his neighbors so they could have a nice Christmas meal. And when little Tommy returned home to see his empty rabbit hutch, tears filled his eyes, but these were tears of gratitude for the joy that he had felt in helping others. Selflessness, service, and sacrifice, those would soon become the virtues by which Thomas Monson lived his life, and everybody who knew him knows that. Following graduation from West High School, President Monson attended the University of Utah, where he met Francis Johnson during his freshman year. Around the same time, he joined the U.S. Navy and served in the waning days of World War II. After the war, he graduated cum laude from the University of Utah with a bachelor's degree in business management. Shortly thereafter, he married Frances in the Salt Lake Temple. Following graduation, President Monson was hired by the Deseret News to work in the paper's advertising department. He worked in various positions for the newspaper and eventually became the general manager of the Deseret Press. As he was just beginning his professional career, President Monson was called to be a bishop of a Mormon congregation at the exceptionally young age of 22. That hardly ever happens in the LDS Church. In this position, he was charged with leading a congregation of more than 1,000 members. Then at the age of 31, Tom was again called to a leadership position typically reserved for older men when he was asked to serve as president of the LDS mission in Canada and preside over a whole raft of young missionaries. When he was only 36, Tom was called as a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, among the most influential positions in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In 2008, he was sustained as president of the church, overseeing the day-to-day operations of a faith with millions of followers. The church witnessed record growth during his tenure as president, with more than 2 million men and women joining the ranks of converts of the Latter-day Saints Church. Whether as a prophet or an apostle, a mission president, or a friend, President Monson simply took care of people. One particular story stands out among the rest when he was a young bishop. There were 84 widows in his congregation. During the Christmas holiday, he would visit each and every one of them, ensuring that they were all provided with a good holiday meal. And even after President Monson was released as bishop, he continued to stay in contact with each one of these widows. writing letters, making phone calls, and frequently visiting them in their homes. In fact, President Monson remained so close with each of these 84 widows that he would eventually speak at all of their funerals. That's a real record. President Monson's example of intimate individual ministry underscored what was most remarkable about his leadership. Although he presided over a church of millions, his focus was always on the one. Although tasked with making administrative decisions affecting thousands of people the world over, his lifelong commitment was to serving individuals in need. Although an expert manager, he was first and foremost a disciple of Jesus Christ, a man of remarkable kindness, unwavering love, and preternatural empathy. President Monson was a servant first and a leader second. Endless are the stories in which he would drop everything, sometimes even leaving church meetings that he was presiding and leaving them early to visit a grieving widow, bless a sickly child, or minister to a family in need. Both on a macro and micro level, President Monson was intimately involved in building up the kingdom of God, and he was perhaps the greatest living example of Christ's admonition to find the one lost sheep who has gone astray and bring him back to the fold. Of President Monson's boundless charity, Elder Joseph B. Worthland once said, quote, Tom has given everything to those in need, including the shirt off his back. I mean it. I've seen him give away his shirts, his suits, and his shirts, and his shoes. Madam President, President Monson was among the greatest men I have ever known. Service was his motto, and humility his hallmark. Countless were the lives he touched as a prophet, father, and friend. He emulated Jesus Christ in every particular, helping all of us draw closer to God by drawing all of us closer to each other. I'm so grateful for the life of my dear friend and for the example he left for everyone to follow.